Salutations everyone, this is Razor bringing you guys a video today talking about Overwatch 2, specifically the PvE mode hero missions. They've been talking about this quite a lot, and I think it's something we really need to focus on, and it's, I think, the biggest reason to be hyped about Overwatch 2, honestly. It's a hard thing to explain. Like they were talking about, Diablos, which if you guys haven't played Diablo 3, like that is the thing that you spend the vast majority of your time in. Not more than 90% of your time is spent in these Nephilim rifts and greater rifts. That's how you get the most loot. That's where you have all your fun. That's where you set your score on the leaderboards. That's where you get your personal bests. That's where you get your loot. That's where you make your builds, right? And I think Jeff said it perfectly right here when he says that hero missions are the most difficult thing to wrap your head around if you haven't played them before. And in my gaming, past, in my experiences, as well as seeing the footage and hearing what the devs have said, both last year and especially this year in the BlizzCon line, I've been able to wrap my head around these hero missions, the PvE aspect of Overwatch 2, where they're gonna be spending a lot of their time developing, and we are gonna be spending probably most of our time playing. If you're not like a PvP player, or if you are just gonna be really into this new PvE mode, and taking a look at the clues of what they've been saying about what they want to make it as replayable as the Diablo Greater Rifts, the GRs. And all the progression system and the different types of objectives to have. One of the weakest parts of the PvE modes that we have had in Overwatch 1 is the lack of variety with the enemy types, right? It's kind of boring at times, killing the same 3 different types of enemies and over again. And they completely address that here, introducing all these different kinds of enemies that have all these different characteristics. And of course, we got that huge skill tree that is 10 times bigger than what we saw just a year ago when they were talking about the progression system. So what do we have here in hero missions? We've got multiple different types of enemies that have their own different types of attacking and personal objectives. We have different locations with different weather patterns and huge skill trees to play the same character in a huge multitude of different ways. What is Overwatch's hero missions? What they've done is they've accidentally almost recreated the greatest multiplayer experience that has ever been made to date in video games. And those of you that have followed me for a long time know exactly what I'm talking about. Overwatch 2 PvE is accidentally Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. That is the level of amazingness that we are dealing with here. If you take a look at all of the info and all of the data, all of the screenshots and all of the things that we've seen, they are recreating that type of experience. Sure, it's not different kinds of objectives and different wave based and then an extraction, right? But it has all of those elements. We have all the different types of builds that we can make, right? So it doesn't matter if you don't like playing Lucio, for instance. With all of the different skill trees, your Lucios and your Mercies, they're gonna do a ton of damage, but that's not gonna take away from your Junkrats and your Tracers and your Reinhardts, because they're gonna be doing even more damage than you're used to with their types of different abilities. They showed off the Soldier 76 Snowplow build, which Jeff said was deemed too OP, and that's not even in the game anymore. They're gonna be able to iterate on so many different ideas. And I'm just talking about PvE here. A lot of people are thinking, what does this have to do with PvP? And, you had all those idiots thinking that this wasn't a true sequel. When I perfectly explained why it absolutely was, over a year ago after the last BlizzCon. And this really shows the amount of work that's being put into this game, the amount of content that we're getting. We're getting an entire story mode, by the way. And then we have the PvE hero missions, which is going to be endless replayability. That is their goal, to have it be like Diablo GRs. It's not going to be boring farming. You're not going to be playing the same characters over and over again. I mean, you can, if you just love playing Genji, you can just play Genji and try to make him work on all the different types of maps and all the different types of objectives. They talked about one where you have to pick up a bunch of things from off the ground and put them somewhere, a la devices for Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. There was elimination objective, just like they had in Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. So they're giving us this endless replayability and customization within our own different builds to play Reinhardt 30 different ways. You can play Mei 30 different ways with all these different kind of builds, and obviously you can synergize with other heroes. Obviously there's going to be sick combos that we're going to be able to pull off. So it doesn't really matter what you like, what characters you like playing, or what characters your friends like playing, or how good or bad either of you are. Like the guy said, you know, I'm super into the PvP and that's all I play is competitive, but I have some friends that, you know, that's like not their thing. This is something that we can play with everybody, and there's going to be a hardcore aspect to this, because I can tell you right now, there's going to be different difficulties for these things. We already have it in Junkenstein and the anniversary events. We have those difficulties, so we know each of these hero missions is going to have different difficulties. They said that there ideally going to be hundreds of these hero missions. I'm sure they're just going to keep adding more. They might even add new powers. I'm sure there will also be different balances like they had in Mass Effect 3. You know, it's just PvE, so you aren't going to have people complaining about getting destroyed by one thing over and over again, one thing being meta. This is the type of game mode where it doesn't matter what's meta. You can make anything work, and as long as like there's not a power that has a bug or the description is incorrect or something like that. That does happen to games. That happened in some Mass Effect 3 powers, a la Shockwave not doing what it was supposed to do. But there, in one of the evolutions on the tree, when it came to like increasing the distance. So what we have here, I think, is the biggest reason to be excited. We have all these different types of enemies. We have, you know, the little splicers that are running around, the ones that, you know, you take off their legs and they start crawling towards you. You have the ones that are just bombs, that are just go for the objectives. And they have, you know, that tentacle lady that brings you in, a la the Reaper from Mass Effect 3. So the different types of interactions, you know, the Polar is what she's called, but that she's giving me mad Reaper vibes, or Banshee, sorry, bad Banshee vibes for Mass Effect 3. She's part of the Reaper class. So we have a bunch of different types of enemies with a different bunch of types of objectives on, I assume, portions of these maps, because like, if you have a big map like Junkertown, like that entire map isn't going to be available for every single type of objective. Sometimes, you know, maybe it's just that initial little canyon, that little box canyon next to the gas station, you know, that you hold point A for. Maybe that can just be a different type, one specific type of objective. But for another objective, maybe it's even more of the map, or maybe it's a different portion of the map. Maybe it's just the last section where you're capturing C, right? So we're going to have different areas, and, you know, the different technology that they're putting into the interactions of the enemies, as well as the improvements to the audio functions. You know, they're not going to sound exactly like M16s and Barrett 50 cals. That's just the reference point that they're trying to get in order to improve the sound. I think a lot of people kind of misunderstood that. The soldier's gun isn't going to start sounding all of a sudden like the M4, right? It's still going to be a fake gun sound, but the way that it echoes and interacts and the different types of sound stages that we get are going to be a bit more realistic, and it's just going to be satisfying. That's those little tiny things that, you know, different weather, different times of day, being able to take down the cannon, being able to take down the legs, just the arms. These are the things that are going to give us that extra little bit of juice that we're like, that just feels so good. It feels rewarding. It feels satisfying. You know, I can play Mercy and destroy people. You know, I can still heal, but, you know, the Junkrat's going to be out there with 2 grenade launchers just plowing away, so he still fills his niche as a DPS, while Mercy or Lucio, better known for healing, can still do damage that they can't do in the PvP, because it's PvE. Who cares? You can give them all these different kinds of powers, like as if you know, this was the actual Overwatch team, you know, in like, let's say there was a movie. Obviously, you know, Mercy's Caduceus blaster is going to have to be a little bit more useful than it is in the PvP, right? Well, that is how it is going to be. And with all the different evolutions, there's going to be so many different ways to play this game. It's going to be ridiculous. So you can grind up your Mei to unlock everything you want. You have like the best shit. And then all of a sudden you see a video about this really awesome Moira build. And like, oh man, I haven't really leveled up my Moira. And there's this build that people have figured out. It really synergized really well with this Winston build. And then all of a sudden, man, maybe I'm finally going to be able to beat the hard mode on that Numbani game mode with elimination, right? So we're going to find all these different things, all these different ways to play the game. With the sheer amount of heroes that we have is a lot, and the evolution trees is more so than we see in the vast majority of PvEs. If you've played different other types of PvE game modes, whether it be like Left 4 Dead or even more recent ones. You had the first-person MOBA that a lot of people thought Overwatch was going to be a lot like. That absolutely was not. That I made a completely different video on when those games first came out. You know, those types of heroes are kind of like funneled into doing one kind of job. But with the different types of things that we're looking at here with Overwatch 2's PvE, is that we're going to be able to do so many different things. And one of the weakest points about the PvE right now is, you know, we only have one objective, right? We're just guarding the gate, or we're just trying to get to the end of, you know, this map so we can extract. So we're just, you know, we're taking out all the robots, whatever. But, you know, that one part of the anniversary event it's a little bit more fun because we have all these different types of enemies. You know, the snipers, all of a sudden they show up and like, oh man, we have to figure out where are the snipers. We need the call out on them, and we'll be able to CC them with our, you know, McCree that's got a flash every 5 seconds, or it's one that electrocutes and that combos with our Torbjorn's Molten Core or something. These are the type of things that we're going to be able to do. And there are some things that we don't know. We don't know exactly how the progression system is going to work. Is it within a few kinds of missions, or is it completely static? Like once you've unlocked all of Tracer's abilities, do you just have those? Or is it only for a certain number of missions, or is it only for a specific mission? That we don't know. I have the feeling... I had the feeling earlier that it was just in mission progression, you know, like a MOBA, where like you only level up and get these things only within that game. But now that we've seen all these different types of hero missions, all these different types of objectives, and the fact there's hundreds of them, it's definitely not going to be that. It's going to be, once you've unlocked all the Reinhardt abilities, you have all the Reinhardt abilities, right? Hopefully we're not gonna have to, like, you know, get like some sort of like respec token or prestiging in order to like create a different build. Hopefully we'll just be able to switch on the fly. And we don't know like how long these missions are going to be, or if we're gonna be restricted to different kinds of heroes that we can play. That's definitely how the story mode is. They have said, like, during this story mission, you have Genji and Winston and Tracer and Mercy. Those are the four, and those are the only four that you're gonna have. That makes sense. You're trying to tell a story. There are specific characters in specific missions in that story, and they're gonna have interactions, and they're gonna be in the cutscenes, right? But for PvE hero missions, you know, there's going to be like a little bit of lore and a little bit of, you know, this character's relation to this environment. We're going to have those kinds of voice lines and things like that. But I think for the most part, it's just going to be pick whatever character you want with whatever build you want and just try to make it work. There are going to be some things that are like kind of really, really strong that might be toned down, or you're trying to like triple barrier a bastion or something, that maybe they restrict it to the amount of different DPS or tanks or, you know, what have you. There possibly might be restrictions, or there possibly might not be. Of course, you're going to always want to have a healer, you know, if it's like a long difficulty, like huge difficulty setting that takes like 20 minutes to do or something, then like, oh man, we're really going to need a healer on this. Or like, all right, we're going to need 2 tanks because they're going to be coming at us from both sides. I think, you know, that kind of freedom might be necessary to try to figure out how to play these different hero missions in different ways. But they also could, like, okay, for this one, you can pick out of these 8. So, you know, out of these 8, 4 of you pick out of these 8. That could also possibly be the thing. But I'm thinking you can pick any character, but obviously you're going to want one that synergizes well with each other. You're going to want maybe somebody that's really fast. You're going to want the Lucio or the Tracer or the Sombra that can pick up the objects that you need to deliver. Or you're going to need more focus damage, so you're going to need the Discord Orb from Zenyatta to take on this elimination mode, right? Or this one has the Wall of Death. We're going to be need a little bit more speed. We're going to want the D.Va and the Winston with the Lucio on this one. So I think this is the thing to be most excited about for Overwatch 2, because they're focusing on, this is the thing that we're going to have a infinite replayability on. This is where you're going to spend a ton of time. You know, we can play the story mode as much as we want, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing, and the cutscene is going to be heartfelt and amazing looking and everything like that, and the PvP is going to be great, even with the changes that they make and all the new heroes and such. But the hero missions, it can be continually updated. It can be continually added to. Obviously, we're going to keep getting more characters even after the launch of the game. So that's going to change things. We're like, oh man, how's this new support? How's this new tank? How's this new DPS going to fit within, you know, the things that we haven't completed on this difficulty or on that map, right? So it's going to be ever changing, ever evolving. They might add different themed ones for different events, you know, that we are used to for our PvP stuff, right? So I think with what we've seen and what I've experienced from Diablo, from Mass Effect 3, and what we've seen here, this is the thing that we should be the most excited for. Maybe you don't care about PvE, maybe you're just all about it, but I think this is going to be the runaway hit, because this is what they're hammering home is going to be the infinite replayability. And from what they've shown in the BlizzCon line specifically, with the different types of objectives and the different types of enemies, those are exactly the things that we needed to hear. And it just so happens to accidentally resemble the greatest multiplayer experience PvE-wise that I've ever had in my life, the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. And it gives me the highest of hopes, because this is going to be that, but just better, because it's going to have all these heroes that we're attached to that we love, infinite different kinds of builds that we can play with them, and obviously the different type of synergies we can have with our teammates, whether they be randoms or friends. I'm sure probably both of those options will be available, and will be a lot of fun no matter whom you're playing with. You can solo carry with your Reinhardt, or your kick-ass Brigitte, or your Genji, or Tracer, right? So I think that the possibilities are endless for the hero mission game mode, and that is the thing I'm most excited for. Of course, I'm super excited for story and cutscenes and that mode, and see what we get from that. And obviously with the PvP, the new mode and the new heroes and stuff, and Sojourn. But this is what I'm most excited for, and I think with what Jeff said about if you haven't played it, it's going to be the most difficult one to wrap your head around. I think I've wrapped my head around it, and I am super, super excited for it, and you should be too.